So I saw Halloween Kills last night. And I was uncertain because I had talked to Brad Henderson, my dear friend Brad Henderson, in LA. And this was after the New York Ninja screening, and he had seen Halloween Kills at Beyond Fest, and he said it was the worst Halloween film of the entire franchise, that it was the only one he legitimately disliked to this degree. And that worried me. And I saw it last night, and what I came away with was a mixed bag. So, spoiler-free review.
Get out of my yard, you little pervert!
Let's start this off by setting up some basic understanding of just how much our views on Halloween might differ. I love John Carpenter's original, and I think Part 3 is pretty damn sick as well. I think Halloween 2 is fine. I hate the sister twist, and I consider basically everything else through the Rob Zombie films to be kinda whack.
God damn it.
When it comes to David Gordon Green's initial take on the franchise, I was a big fan. I know a lot of folks disagree, but I thought his grasp on the character was the best since the original, and while some of the plotting was a tad suspect, I was overall very impressed. Halloween 2018, it gave us a proper return to form for Michael Myers, complete with a phenomenal redesign of the mask, and this part's important, a carefully balanced take on trauma. I can't say it's a perfect examination of PTSD, but it does a competent job while also delivering a take on the franchise that is both savage and reverential. The podcasters, okay, they kind of suck, but hey, all these films have flaws.
No one told you.
Told me what?
Michael Myers is alive.
Now I'm going to stay kind of quiet on the actual plot of Halloween Kills since this is a spoiler-free review, but suffice it to say that the story picks up immediately after the last film and continues the story of the night he came home again. And this is similar in setup to the first Halloween 2 back in 1981, albeit with a seemingly far more definitive ending from the previous entry, making things a bit more complicated to get back into motion. What also complicates things is additional backstory about what happened in this continuity after the OG 1978 murders, complete with reasonable CGI enhancements to bring back a certain character. We then get into mass hysteria as the town realizes what's happened over the course of the day. There's one shot of a news program showing the gas station from the first film, the 2018 film, which really it helps to cement. It helps to cement how little time over which this murder has taken place. Various supporting players from the original 1978 film make their return here. Actually, also characters from the 2018 film, like the cemetery lady, for example. A lot of characters come back, including Tommy and Lindsay, of course, the kids whose babysitters were menaced, and in Lindsay's case, killed by Michael Myers, while the Strodes head to the hospital and make their own plans. Varying factions decide how to deal with the returning menace, but one thing's for certain, evil dies tonight. Or whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess. Fucking Haddonfield. Halloween Kills is the very definition of a mixed bag. But let's start with the good. For one thing, if you're looking for some blood and death, this sucker might just work for you on that merit alone. I'm personally not a proponent of the whole, well, it's got good gore, so that's good enough for me mentality, but, teach their own, whatever, float your boat. Between the fantastic cinematography by Michael Simmons, returning here from the 2018 version, and the brutality of the Shape's antics, we get some pretty great scenes of terror. There's a caveat there, but we'll get to that shortly. Now, a big reason a lot of the kills worked for me in this instance is they very much showcase what the filmmakers get about Michael Myers.
Stupid fucking pervert. Total pervert.
It always drove me nuts that he was so without agency in the original continuity and in the reboots before this. It was always like, oh, he wants to kill his sister, or the dumb fuck cult is controlling him, or whatever. It's not the unstoppable, unknowable evil from the first film. What made the Shape such a great antagonist, aside from a perfect mask and body language, was that he could come for anyone at any time. He's like a shark, but evil and not misunderstood. Hashtag protect sharks. This film cements Green's grasp on this. Michael Myers is in it for Michael Myers. He's here to have fun in his own unique way, and Halloween Kills gets this across through a slightly more playful Michael than we've seen before. We actually get to see him setting up a body for discovery and adding an extra sadistic touch just for good measure. And that feels, it feels mean-spirited. Actually, a lot of this movie feels mean-spirited, but when you really think about it, you might realize that it's just us getting a behind-the-scenes glimpse at what was always there. Michael Myers is a child playing with toys and seeking out a reaction from the adults around him, which is something I might not feel as strongly about if it weren't for the fact that he acts just like my toddler. The flashbacks also help quite a bit in understanding the Myers character without ever trying to dig too deep into what made him a monster or, garbage like that. Instead, these scenes show us exactly what happened after Loomis shot him and provide additional character details for spoilery stuff I'm not going to get into. But suffice it to say, these are standout scenes, just nothing that would necessarily override my issues. Performances are all over the place, but I'm going to throw this out there. Let's see, Michael Smallwood, returning to his role of Hunky Doctor, is fantastic. He is admittedly a friend of mine who I'm super proud of, but I was so pleased that not only did he get a bigger role here, but he did such a good job and came off as one of the few real characters in Halloween Kills. So, Smalls, if you're watching this, fucking great job, man. I love you, man. You were a fucking highlight. I did also enjoy the characters of Big John and Little John, who are a gay couple living in the Myers house. It's always a pleasure to see Michael McDonald on the big screen, and Scott MacArthur is a delight as always. I can't say they fit the film all that well, but their scenes were entertaining enough for me to get around that. I guess the only other thing is the big double-edged sword, the very firm, resonant theme of trauma that pervades the entire film. So this is interesting. The concept is so good. The idea of trauma infecting people, creating a mob mentality, and the evil that caused said trauma being such a simple, straightforward, and cold darkness that we take and mold into our own personal demons. It treats trauma of this kind as a sort of as a sort of narcissism, a self-fulfilling prophecy rather than a supernatural one. It's a really cool idea. Which does lead me to the bad. Now, maybe David Gordon Green, Dane McBride, and Scott teams went a little too firm on that trauma theme, because, whoo boy, if there was ever a film that felt so strongly about its message that it steamrolled its own narrative, it's this one. This film does not trust its audience. Rather than layer in the feelings of guilt and hysteria and, yes, trauma in a subtle way, or allowing it to work alongside the slasher formula in equal measure, they just say fuck it and go all in on one while basically ignoring the other. All of the Shape's antics throughout the film feel disconnected from the characters he's terrifying most. And, perhaps that's by design. I get where this issue is coming from, and so it hurts even more to shit all over the work that went into this, because I understand. I get it. I get the idea. But it just is not... It's not shaped properly. It's a noble mission. Really push for this idea of Michael Myers infecting the mind with his actions without even trying to do so. These townspeople are haunted by a ghost that really doesn't give a shit about them, and that is just amazing. That is such a good idea, and to see it fall flat like this fucking sucks. Now, this is the second Halloween sequel to take an artistically inclined approach to trauma, and also, H2O also took an approach, but a little different. And honestly, I can't say which one works better. The Rob Zombie film, which I've only seen front to back once, to be fair, when it was released in theaters, has its fans, and I remember not really being bored so much as frustrated with it. I also remember my girlfriend at the time telling me that I never got to pick a movie again, and I said, fair enough. Now, I think I watched the director's cut, or at least I skimmed through it to see what was up, and I know I watched a video at one time comparing the two, but I just don't know if I sat down and watched all of the director's cut front to back. Either way, though, I'm not a fan of his Halloween 2, but it's interesting how much it and Halloween Kills have in common. Both take Both take a less mainstream approach. Both are sadistic towards their characters. And both contend with characters mentally decimated by this killer in very direct ways. With Halloween Kills, in the end, the subtext is all just too on the nose and taking up so much of the spotlight to the point I can't say who the main character even really is here. I mean, I guess it's an ensemble piece, but no one in particular stands out. I don't know, maybe Judy Greer as Karen. Add to that, the performances are... They're awful for the most part. Like, undoubtedly ruined by the writing. Like, I don't think it's the actor's fault. The writing, like, I'm not sure who could really deliver this dialogue well. Klaus Kinski would say it's a bit much. Jamie Lee Curtis is just a fucking cringe machine the whole way through, while the Haddonfield pseudo lynch mob is cartoonish and unbelievable. Like, Tommy sucks. While admittedly, you know, it's a, like, that mob is a very fitting metaphor for social media and like how we react to traumatic things in our lives that I can't, like, if I go any further, I'm going to spoil it. But it's a good metaphor, oddly enough. As for the returning side characters, they just feel like a horror convention was in town that week and their rates were reasonable. So yeah, not sure what else I can say without outright spoiling things. Honestly, if I really want to understand my own feelings about this very conflicting film, I mean, I'd have to go back and watch the whole dang franchise over again. Like, really dig in, analyze them. But, you know, gosh, who has time for that? Go watch a movie. Dies tonight.
Get me a doctor now!
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face. The blackest eyes. The devil's eyes. What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was